Hi everyone, and welcome to episode 273 of the Mighty Whites podcast. I'm Jack, as always, joined by KC.
Now then,
How's things, mate?
really warm. My God, it's humid.
It really is. I know that the few Americans we get will be amazed at how much like mid-20s feels like you're going to die in this country. But that's what it's like. I'm just going to jump straight into this because it broke like 20 minutes ago. Because I literally just thought I'll just get up the Leeds site and stuff just in case that's happened. And the 24-25 pre-season update was there, but when you click on it, there's no article. So anyway, I went on Twitter. Leeds have announced a pre-season trip to Germany, including friendly matches, and all of those games have to take place behind closed doors because of the policing and security after this summer's European Championship. I'm guessing that they've said a limited number of police officers and security. Basically, no one's allowed to take holiday during the Euros. So everyone's on holiday after the Euros.
Yeah.
Nancy Froston's put an article up on The Athletic. Said sources at Leeds who have been kept anonymous for obvious reasons have been arguing the toss with the German police, but no, what's happened. So due to circumstances beyond the control of the club, we've recently informed that any friendly matches played in Germany have been ordered to take place behind closed doors. We understand everyone will be pissed off. Kindly ask, don't bother travelling. I'm mostly annoyed because I would have quite fancied that. That'd have been quite doable.
Yeah, would have been.
You could get, once the Euros are done, you could get fairly cheap flights out there and fairly cheap accommodation and stuff like that.
Yeah, from the sounds of things, with it being described as a pre-season camp, it sounds like they're going to be there for at least a couple of games, you'd imagine. So
it definitely said matches, so at least two.
Any speculation on any one of the particular teams we may be playing?
I look, I don't know. I have a theory. Rassenball or something. I don't know. Yeah, that's a shame because I would have quite. I couldn't afford to go to the Euros and stuff, but I could have probably afforded to go out and watch a couple of pre-season games in Germany.
Yeah.
Someone who won't be in Germany is Jack Harrison, who, and here's the entire statement: Leeds United can confirm Jack Harrison has decided to rejoin Everton on loan ahead of the 24-25 season. The winger initially joined the Toffees on a temporary basis last season, going on to make 35 appearances in all competitions, scoring 4 goals. Harrison now remains on loan at Goodison Park until the end of the 24-25 campaign. That's the whole statement. I assume that he isn't exactly in Leeds' good graces. Apparently it's just him and Rocker that still have the stupid clause.
And with it sounding like Rocker is making a move permanently. Yeah, again, I can't say as I'm surprised between one, I still have a level of sympathy for him in as much as on transfer deadline day in January, he was at Leicester's training ground. We did very nearly sell him. So, yeah, I just the whole thing of the clip with his mum obviously didn't sit well with a lot of people, but I don't think you can hold that against him.
No, I don't hold this against Jack Harrison, really. I hold it against Victor Orta. And
I very much hold it against Victor Orta.
Pretty damn strongly. I mean, they gave him this contract with not even just one season if you can go out on loan. Wasn't it like 6 weeks before the end of the season? And we were in deep shit.
Yeah. I assume when that contract came through, his agent was like, sign it now.
Sign it now. You've guaranteed yourself 5 years of Premier League money, regardless. It might have been 4 years. I don't remember. But either way.
So, yeah. I mean, I having a conversation with Connie, I did have the dream speculation on the off chance that Nonto and Somerville left, that Harrison and James on the wings would be something of a throwback to Bielsa ball. But no, I never realistically saw it happening. No. I could well see it happening if we go back up, that he comes back in.
I think that what would probably happen there is just someone buys him.
I don't probably, but by the same token, you look at. I think now, having watched how quickly the Willie Gnonto situation turned itself around, I think it would be a similar process, except there are probably more people who don't like Jack Harrison or didn't like Jack Harrison even before he started going out on loan to Everton.
Yeah, the difference was there's some people really didn't like him as a footballer, which I think is harsh. I think it's fair to say he's one of the most frustrating footballers I've ever seen.
Oh yeah, but
it's like the inconsistency with him is wild.
I'll tell you what, though, knows how to put together a pre-season training montage, doesn't it?
He does. I'm perfectly fine if Brendan Aronson's in his DMs about that. getting some work done in the summer.
Can you recommend someone, please? I know just the guy.
You did briefly mention that Matt Locker's probably going permanently to Betis. There's also talk that Diego Llorente might be going the same place. Sounds like if it happens, it'll be in July because then things have ticked over and you can sell them for just enough to not make a loss on PSR. But with links of players out and players in at the minute, I don't think that's going to happen for a couple of weeks because it Euros.
No, I mean, I think the closest I saw to things happening are now that Liam Cooper will be back from Germany, the contract talks may speed up somewhat.
Yeah.
And we'll see how Austria get on in the next few days in regards to Verba. But
well, I mean, it's not been the next few days; it's in an hour and a half, isn't it?
Oh, they playing today? Yeah, well,
the Austria game, yeah, they're. I nearly said away to the Netherlands then because they're written second. Now they're playing Netherlands, France, Poland. They're both at 5:00.
Yeah, fair. So, yeah, we can sort out his whatever will happen to him. Somehow, still a loan move.
Yeah, the last Leeds thing really to talk about is fixtures and TV stuff. Fixtures are out tomorrow, 9 a.m. I'm still saying Derby away to start. Friday night, probably.
Ooh. Let's have a. Leeds and Oxford away on Friday night.
Either way, a long way, a ball ache of a time.
Yeah.
And the League Cup draw is 11:30 Thursday. They are announcing quite early all the TV fixtures up to January. I think they're all getting announced in like July.
I wonder if they'll announce the playoffs yet, or the last day of the season.
Oh yeah, if they all say Saturday 3:00, I am so fully on your side of this. It's because it's never going to be then.
Yeah.
Yeah, all the League Cup games are on telly anyway. Leeds were on TV 33 times last season. I was on about this with a lad at work, and I was saying, it'll be like 42 this year with the new rules. But it turns out it's actually capped to 24 per club.
So we'll be on TV less.
It makes me think Leeds are going to be on a load in the first 4 weeks and then not be on and then 20 of the last 22 will all be on. Or something daft like that. There'll be a massive bit in the middle where we're not on as much. But with 5 championship games on TV per weekend and there's still a 3 p.m. blackout, there's going to be a lot of fucking around with kickoff times. It's at least there's a lot more notice this time, but apparently that's up until March when it goes back to what it was like this season, where you'll probably get about fucking 2 weeks.
And they change it on a whim.
Yeah. So yeah, that'll be shit and very annoying.
I'm just trying to think what in terms of pure name value is sort of the biggest fixture for us this season. Is it Sheffield United?
Probably.
Yeah. I'm just trying to play the game of, there is a game coming. We are playing Sheffield United, and it took you more than 3 weeks to realise that's a big local derby. We might televise that one.
Yeah. The new TV, we'll have to. If they stick to their word and give a load more notice, That is a big improvement, but it's a huge if. I mean, they've brought in the rule of it being at least 6 weeks, at least 4 separate times. And never once have they stuck to it. So, fuck knows.
What are you going to do? Go to ITV? I'd like to see that happen.
Yeah, give me your TV pictures, shit. I suppose that's pretty much all there is to say about Leeds, because it was always going to be a fairly quick one, this anyway. So the Euros.
Yay.
How do you think England have been so far?
I was working in the garden yesterday, and I really had the realization of I've not listened to Football's Coming Home nearly as much as I did in 2021.
I listened to it like once right at the start, and I listened to World in Motion a few times because it's a better song. It's not as good for chanting in the ground, but it is a better song.
But yeah, I think I said before the tournament I wasn't as interested in this one. 2021, I think, had the hype of it was the first big footballing thing post-COVID. So we were kind of all looking forward to that. The World Cup got entirely ruined by being at Christmas. But yeah, my spirit has just not come back for this one.
We were also for that fresh off a swashbuckling 9th place in the Premier League under Marcelo Bielsa. We'd have probably watched anything.
Yeah. But no, unfortunately, the football on display has left a lot to be desired from England.
Yeah, it was. I mean, like, the first game wasn't great, but the Denmark game was shit. Like, it really was dreadful. I'm not as much of a stats nerd as a lot of people, but did you see the PPDA stat?
No.
Like, England's average in the qualifiers, and I know that they were playing worse teams, but was like 10 passes per defensive action. And in Denmark, it was like 23, which was like the second lowest of any team in the Euros has managed.
Yeah.
And I know that Denmark are better at passing than the teams who were playing in qualifying, but it doesn't expect that level of drop off. You would have a job on doing that, just sitting on the edge of the 18-yard box and not moving.
Yeah.
There was no pressing over, but it makes me think that they're basically not fit.
It's almost like in the second game, then maybe rotate your squad.
Yeah.
Cole Palmer was sat right there.
Yeah. So England have been crap. Spain have been pretty good. I know Portugal made a bit of a meal of the first game, but they look pretty good as well. Our split was 2 for France, 2 for Portugal, wasn't it, before the tournament started? Has anything happened to change your mind?
No, I know. Kind of. I think my alternate was Spain, wasn't it? Because I was quite high on Spain and how they've looked, and yeah, like yesterday, watching them with their second string out, and you were just there watching them go, nah, they'll be fine in this tournament.
Yeah, still not conceded a goal as well.
Yeah. It's just so hard to look past France. You're watching N'Golo Kante in these games going, why are you in Saudi Arabia? Outside of the shed loads of cash.
I don't think there is a reason outside of the shed loads of cash.
Like, why are you not doing this for a Champions League, like a top-end Champions League club? Because there's certain players I look at with age and think, yeah, fair enough. Not you. You're far too good for this.
Yeah, that's very true. I mean, he's been really standout, hasn't he? And I know that they only drew 0-0 with Netherlands, and barring a debatable disallowed goal, it could have been even worse for them, but I still think that they look a really good side. But if all you'd seen was the first games, you'd probably be leaning Spain at the minute. Scotland are out. We'll get the one thing out of the way first. Yes, it was a penalty.
It was. Like, I didn't watch the game. I saw it the next day. Absolute stonewall penalty.
Yeah, it's definitely a penalty. They did get fucked over there by refereeing. But they had about 5 shots in 3 games. Like, it was going out with a whimper.
Yeah, I think there will be the very thin argument of our first choice striker got injured just before the tournament.
I'd be more willing to accept that argument if that person wasn't Lyndon Dykes, who isn't particularly good.
Yeah, if
they had a new Ali McCoy or someone like that, I'd be like, all right, yeah, that's a big miss. I have a lot more sympathy with him missing that Lewis Ferguson from Bologna.
Yeah, it's from talking to a couple of the Scottish guys I used to work with. I think there'd be a few people quite glad to see the back of Clark at this. I think much how England fans are feeling about Southgate now, that it's a bit too negative. And yeah, I think you could sort of understand what happened to Scotland in the opening game, but after that, you after playing Germany, you kind of got to have a bit of a go, because if nothing else, your goal difference is fucking ruined. Yeah. So have a go. Why not?
Yeah, I do wonder. Sat up in the studio watching, having just left West Ham, wonder if Moisey might fancy it. You know, a little 2 to 4 years in that and then retire.
Yeah,
that's about right.
I don't know if I even believe in football management retirement these days.
But Big Sam for Scotland. That's interesting. Do that. Let's see what happens.
I think once I've seen Roy Hodgson come out of retirement,
Lyndon Dykes again.
Yeah, I think once I'd seen Hodgson come out of retirement and Neil Warnock's persistence in, I'm just going to remain involved in football in some form or fashion. I think now I'm just off the belief of there's always one more job.
Yeah, and that's looking pretty likely. England themselves, for some reason, I just went on the tables on the BBC website and it took me to an old World Cup table, which was weird. England, on 4 points, they're already through. Playing Slovenia tonight. Slovenia and Denmark on 2, Serbia on 1. So, even like, because they drew with Denmark, they can come second with a draw if Denmark beat Serbia well. But, I mean, they should. I mean, it's Slovenia. You've got to beat Slovenia. But it isn't absolutely set that they'll win the group. And they need to win the group because otherwise it's pretty nailed. Otherwise, they get Germany. The only change that's been like publicly expected is Trent Alexander-Arnold to drop out of midfield for Conor Gallagher. I still maintain either bring in Palmer or bring in Anthony Gordon, play Foden 10, play Bellingham in midfield with Rice. But he's not going to do it because that involves having like another player that can attack.
It's Lampard Gerrard all over again. Is Foden Bellingham?
Yeah,
it's going to happen. We're going to have these 2 really good players. I don't know what to do with them.
Does that make Cole Palmer Scholes? He's just going to retire.
Well, judging by the fact he somehow, I understood Bowen coming on in the last game because he has featured a fair few times for England. If you're Anthony Gordon, you must have been sat there going, "Really? I'm not coming off the bench here. No?
Yeah.
All right then."
Do you think that we'll actually finally have a bit of a go in this game, or do you think it'll just be standard Southgate ball?
I'm trying to think, because kind of the link for the last couple of tournaments has been that the certainly Euro 2021, not a great performance in the opener against Croatia, terrible performance against Scotland in the second game, and then from there it went swimmingly. At the World Cup, I don't even remember we absolutely battered someone in the opening.
We smashed Iran.
Yes, that was it.
Then through with the USA.
Dreadful performance against the USA, in which we were rooting on Tyler Adams and Brendan Aronson at that point. And
so I only recognise one of those two names. I remember Brendan. I don't know his other name.
I think Weston was probably there as well. All the Americans. And then, it was totally fine. Nothing eventful happened in that World Cup afterwards. No issues with penalties at all. That's to say, I think we should be fine. This is absolutely the sort of game. If we'd have not dicked around in the Denmark game, you could have put the second string out today.
Yeah, or at least made 5 or 6 rested players that needed it, like Spain did. I mean, Spain ended up changing everything, didn't they? But they could have not done that as well.
Yeah.
They very limited my fantasy football options by not playing a couple of players at all. I didn't think they needed to change the goalkeeper, for instance. They don't need a rest.
But yeah, so you're in a position where tonight you absolutely have to put out a full strength team. I think the obvious one is that Trent should drop out, and I'm saying should because I worry.
Yeah,
I really worry. And it's probably worth mentioning as well that the thing that Gareth said after the game that we are struggling to replace Calvin Phillips, which considering he was struggling to get in West Ham's team is alarming.
I have a more alarming thing from that because look, to an extent, my heart sung when he said that we don't have a direct replacement for Calvin Phillips. And in terms of the midfield balance that Southgate wants, Phillips when he was Calvin Phillips. He was so good at that it freed Declan Rice up to let him go forward a bit and be a bit more involved. And that really would be useful. If we could have 2021 Calvin Phillips back, he walks into the team. But there's been a World Cup since then that Calvin Phillips barely played in.
Yeah.
It's not like this is the first tournament after, when he dropped off 6 months ago and now he's not there.
He's not been playing for a little while now.
There's been a couple of years of cycle where Calvin Phillips hasn't been himself anymore. So to bring it up now felt a little bit. It felt like a bullshit excuse. And if you can't figure out how to get a team of England's talent playing because you're missing a holding mid and not like Rodri, you're missing a holding midfield player who was in the Championship for most of his career. I don't think it says a lot about you as a coach if you can't figure out a way around that. And also, if he really, gun to his head, thinks we are missing a Calvin Phillips, it's a 26-man squad, take him. If he really, gun to his head, thinks that's the issue, then fuck it. I don't care if he's out form. You make the big calls. Like the Venables in Euro 96 when Shearer hadn't scored for England in about 3 years. He just went, no, that's a striker. If he really thinks that Rice and Phillips is the partnership, take him. I wouldn't have done that, but
it's very much the Leeds logic of, look, I don't think Patrick Bamford is playing well, but the team plays much better when he's on the pitch than when he's not. So it's probably better off playing him. I love how pivotal Calvin Phillips has come to be, despite barely kicking a ball for the last 2 years at this point. It's fantastic, isn't it, for England? Like, we just, I think Calvin Phillips not being there probably does take a little bit of love out of the England team for me at this point, because he was sort of what we clung on to, like, look, it's Calvin.
He was R1, wasn't he?
Yeah. And then he turned up and he was a really lovely lad, and he was with a load of other lovely lads. That was my Paul Scribbins impressions at trying to get a line out there. That's a deep cut for.
Hey, I was just saying that to people who don't know, that sounds like a very different sentence.
Yeah, it is a tragedy that he's not there. Yeah. I'll move on from that one. But yeah, like you're just watching this group going, I really like this group of England players. Ben White, who's a bit of a dickhead, clearly, but Calvin liked him, so that he must have been okay.
Yeah. Is that the real reason Ben White don't want to play for England? Calvin's not there anymore.
If you're not going to invite Calvin, I'm not coming over, right? Yeah, I mean, it sounds daft. It's one of those things that is absolutely daft to think that, especially, it says a lot of football's moved on because, in eras past, by God, we had loads of holding midfielders, bloody loads of them. And you just there going, well, it's Calvin, isn't it?
Yeah. A penny for the thoughts of Adam Wharton. So, yeah, can you see it being anything other than Gallagher for Alexander-Arnold?
No, like you say, I would really like to see. I'd be happy seeing either Wharton or Mainu coming in for this one, but I don't say Gallagher's been kind of the player of choice throughout qualifying. The alternative you could go with, and you're not doing it mid-tournament now, is, I don't know, why don't we allow John Stones to step up into midfield when we're in possession?
Oh, with no chance. Zero chance.
Like he does for his club.
Well, the other thing is, and to be honest, and this is not a dig because our centre-backs have probably been about his best thing. Like, player of the tournament so far is Matt Gay. But the fact that he might not be as well to do with that because he only played about half an hour in the last 2 months of the season as well.
Yeah.
Like, it's such a weird squad. And, like, Luke Shaw is apparently finally back in training, but because that would make a difference because every time Kieran Trippier gets the ball, it is just running into a roadblock in possession.
Well, you've got someone in Phil Foden who, against Denmark, just decided, I am also number 10 now. You must live with this. It was the reverse Steve Morrison. You're there going, right, if he starts wide and comes in, great. Well, so if we just start him in the middle, it'll be fine. That's what you're like, no, not at all. But he's coming inside, so there's an absolute fuck ton of space on the left-hand side. And we have someone at left back who has to cut back every time.
Yeah.
Why?
Almost like, genuinely, he won't do it. But against Slovenia, I reckon you could get away with just playing Bukayo Saka at left back. And I don't think that's a good option. I think it's a better option than playing Kieran Trippier there. Maybe even as to use one of your spoonerisms from earlier, Go Jones. I think he's a bit better on his left side than Trippier is.
Like you say, Saka has at least played as a left back. I know it's a fair while since he's done it, but he has played there. And Cole Palmer could play then as well.
Then that sounds suddenly very attacking. I think that Southgate get a nosebleed at the thought of that.
Yeah, it's that thing of, I think it was the first time in a while listening to the pundits at halftime, as well as Alan Shearer on co-coms, where to a man it's just, God, this is poor. You've got to change something.
Yeah, and it sounds like a lot of the England players were quite annoyed at some of the criticism from Shearer and Lineker. But I don't really think that they said anything out of turn. They apparently got a bit mad at Lineker because when he was on his podcast rather than the BBC, he said that the performance was shit rather than the BBC quoting of the language.
Calling it turgid instead.
Yeah, well, it was. I don't think that was unreasonable. He didn't go after them all personally and say, all of them, they didn't try and all of that, which I'd understand him getting mad at. But if he said it was shit performance, and it was.
And I think a lot of it was levelled at the tactics because, again, you've got this group of players who when you try and apply any sort of logic to it, it sort of falls apart. Like, right, you've got this guy who is a Premier League winning right back, whose choice of pass is absolutely fantastic. So let's put him into an area of the field that he doesn't typically operate in. I know he has the skill set for it, but if you spend 7 years as a right back and then go, right, 3 weeks of training, you're a centre mid now. Like, no, strangely, he's not going to be at his best. And I'm fully fine with him being second choice to Kyle Walker. Like, Kyle Walker is a senior figure in that team who is...
I think he's even vice captain, isn't he, for this?
He's not quite the level of dickhead of Ashley Cole, but of a similar ilk of... he's a bit of a knob, but he doesn't let you down very often. His family, maybe, but not England. So I can understand certain bits like that, but you're just there going, we've got two fullbacks who like to get forward. We don't really have anyone who sits in that well when they go forward. Declan Rice loves a run from deep.
Yeah. And he did, and I really rate Declan Rice, but he had up there for the worst game I've ever seen him have against Denmark.
Yeah. Again, just pick Calvin. It just works better. Yeah, like it's really frustrating to see all this top level talent that's just not. It doesn't look nearly as fluid as it has done in the last couple of years. It's looking a lot more disjointed, unfortunately, and I do think a lot of that comes down to the squad selection.
Yeah, the one thing is, we'll probably still you probably still win tonight. You probably still win the group, which gives you a relatively favourable draw. If when Shaw's fit and the squad's a bit more balanced, if it kicks into gear in a week, you're still in with a pretty good chance. So we'll have to see what happens. You got a prediction for tonight? It doesn't go on his thing, obviously, like that, but
2-0 win.
That's exactly what I was going to say, and because it doesn't matter for scoring, I will stick with it. Yeah, I'm going to say Kane and Bellingham. There's one other Leeds adjacent thing just to quickly talk about before we go. The Copa America started. Uruguay won 3-1 against Panama. By all accounts, in the first 30 minutes, they were unbelievably good. And just like... But it's properly Leeds adjacent because, of course, Casey, who is the manager of Panama?
I was about to say a different first name then. It's Thomas Christensen, isn't it?
It is indeed.
It is, yeah.
So Leeds. There's 3 former Leeds managers at the Copa America.
Oh, all right, hang on. So obviously we've got him. We've got Marcelo. I'm trying to think of recent. Obviously Jesse's there because because Canada are because of the invitation system of the Copa America now.
Yeah.
And Jesse is already unhappy with the Argentinians and demanding an apology. I didn't even see what
the apology for passing the ball and using the width
in wide areas. I imagine, yeah. Goals aren't out there though. Can't hurt you if the ball's out wide.
Yeah.
I mean, I would argue, having watched Leeds play, you absolutely could be hurt from wide areas and central areas.
Really good win for Uruguay. Once that gets to the knockouts and stuff, might start staying up and watching some of those games.
All right, give me one of those footballing hipsters, are you?
I mean, I stayed up when they beat Argentina.
Yeah, Copa Libertadores watching hipster.
I say I stayed up. It was a midnight kickoff, and I got in from a night out at like 20 at midnight. It didn't take much, but that's happening now. Oh, I'll watch that then. But yeah, obviously, I'd rather England win the Euros than Uruguay win the Copa America. But if England don't win the Euros, I will suddenly start really giving a shit about whether Uruguay win the Copa America. I'll really care. But yeah, that will do us for just like our... I mean, I think I titled this, I did Summer Ramblings because I didn't know what the fuck we were going to talk about, really. We will find out in a couple of weeks whether there's anything actually Leeds related to talk about, and we'll probably... I mean, I dare say we'll try and get one in before England's theoretical last 16 game.
Yeah.
I mean, no, not even theoretical. We can't actually get knocked out after results last night. There will be one.
Yeah.
But yeah, that will do us. So I've been Jack, see you.
I've been Casey. Have a good one.
Come on, England.